This morning, there was a news article that was released that shows that the federal government is currently threatening to impose legislation that would crack down on what they're calling misinformation with regards to COVID-19. Now, they would want to control what Canadians do and do not have access to online and through other sources of media. And they would punish those who they feel are putting information out that is unhelpful. Now, of course, it would be up to the government to deem what is truth and what is not truth, what is helpful, what is not helpful, what Canadians therefore have access to and what Canadians do not. This is a direct imposition on our freedom, and it is wrong. Now, I find this incredibly unsettling that the Liberal government would want to put an internet czar in place. An individual or an entity that would monitor information that Canadians are accessing. I find this unsettling for a number of reasons. Of course, primarily because I believe in freedom. I believe that it is one of our basic liberties as Canadians and that the government has absolutely no business telling us what we can and cannot engage in terms of our sources of information. But I find this unsettling also because the government should actually be looking in the mirror first and foremost before anything else. And that is to say, the government is actually responsible for spreading some of the most dangerous misinformation with regards to COVID-19 that has come out yet. This is what I'm talking about. Trudeau and his health minister, Minister Patty Hajdu, they ignored local experts, local doctors, local researchers, local epidemiologists, and instead they went with some false information that was put out by the World Health Organization, namely that there would be absolutely no risk of human-to-human transmission with regards to COVID-19 originally. Well, that was false. But further to that, the Canadian government also said that we don't need to close our borders down. It's not that big of a deal. This is going to pass over us. False. They also said that we don't need to worry about wearing masks because masks actually don't make a difference in terms of being able to prevent the spread of the disease. Also false. So if we're going to have a conversation with regards to the spread of false information, then the government doesn't need to look any further than in the mirror. But nevertheless, they are looking to move forward and crack down on any information that they would deem unhelpful and make it a punishable offense. So the reality is the government doesn't have all the answers. So what makes them think that they can put this internet czar in place and somehow be helpful to Canadian society? Well, the truth is actually that this isn't about being helpful. This is about control. This is about dictating what information we as Canadians can and cannot access. This is about a government overextending its reach into our lives and being incredibly dictatorial in nature, and it's wrong. Furthermore, I would present to you that Justin Trudeau, as our Prime Minister, not only is wanting to crack down on the information that we have access to, but actually is also withholding information from the Canadian public, as it would be suggested based on information that's been provided at Health Committee. So at Health Committee, there's been experts that have come forward for several weeks now, and they've testified that more information is better, that more information is needed. They've said that the Prime Minister should release modeling, that Canadians should be informed with as much information as possible, because they would say that this actually empowers us to make good decisions. And by empowering Canadians to make good decisions with regards to the COVID virus, we actually can prevent unnecessary deaths. Meanwhile, Trudeau has said that he has no intention of releasing the models anytime soon. Instead, he tells Canadians to stay in their homes, that we can expect this to be our reality for the coming weeks, perhaps months, and so on and so forth. But why not just give Canadians information? Why not just tell us what the modeling shows? Why not just give us the numbers? That's what the experts are calling for. They're saying Canadians should be empowered. More information would in fact be helpful, but instead that is not the case. So here's my bottom line. The government should not be the arbitrator of truth. It has to straighten out its priorities. Instead of cracking down on Canadians and the information that we have access to online, it's the government's responsibility to be facilitating an environment where Canadians are kept healthy and where Canadians are able to thrive economically. So instead, the government should be focusing its time and its attention, its energy on putting a plan in place where we can incrementally be getting the economy back on track. There should be a step-by-step process put in place by which we can actually reintegrate, where we can reestablish ourselves and restart the Canadian economy. Simultaneously, of course, it is also necessary to make sure that the health and the well-being of Canadians is looked after. And it is the government's responsibility to balance these two things. It is not the government's responsibility to dictate to us where we can and cannot find information. In fact, I believe Canadians are incredibly intelligent people. I believe that we have the ability to look at information, read information, digest information, and then discern what is accurate and what is inaccurate. And yes, sometimes we're going to get it wrong. Sometimes we are, because we're human beings. But you know what? For the most part, we can be trusted. For the most part, our freedom can and should be kept intact. A government's responsibility is to facilitate an environment of security, an environment of safety, an environment of economic prosperity. That is the government's role. It is not to dictate how we use our time. It is not to dictate what information we access and what information we don't. It is not to dictate to us what is truth and what is untrue. Canadians are intelligent. Canadians are incredibly discerning. Canadians have the ability to live their lives and make these decisions for themselves. What the government is threatening to do is incredibly destructive, incredibly degrading, incredibly insulting to the Canadian public. If you find this offensive, I am asking you to take action. I am asking you to send the government a message. I'm asking you to tell them to respect your freedom. Write to the President of the Privy Council, Dominic LeBlanc, and let him know your thoughts. Let's stand up for freedom together, Canada.